So 6.
It's Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. This is the Fantasy Finish Line Podcast. Week 8 preview, hot takes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the podcast this week. My name is Jason Evans, joined as always by David Biggs over here to my left for once. I guess if I'm across from you, you're both to my left and to my right, right?
Sure.
All right, we've mixed it up a little bit if you've watched the last few weeks. Joining us this week is our good friend Tad Bukowski. Tad,
cheers.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Tad helps us out on Drink5. He writes the confidence pool.
You gotta have confidence when you talk.
I am just trying to survive here.
That's what you did there.
So
quality banter, gentlemen.
Thank you for checking our podcast out, everyone. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. That will give us lots of help. You can also follow us on Twitter. And there's probably other things you can do with social medias. There's an Instagram page, I know. Thank you, Jess, for handling that. If there is a Jess, we don't know. She's not on camera. So we start out every podcast wondering what we're drinking. And now lately we were able to kind of display what we're drinking. But in case you can't read it, we'll go over it real quick. Tonight I have the Fun Size Milk Stout from Pollyanna Brewing. It's a local brewery. It is freaking delicious. It is a stout that tastes like Snickers bars. I freaking love it. What are you drinking over there, Tad?
Mixing things up here a little bit, going with a little Woodford and Cherry Coke.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I will say that this is after a fantastic old-fashioned made for me by one Mr. Dave Biggs
Cheers.
earlier tonight, so much appreciated for that.
Yeah.
Good night.
I might adopt his language as he's speaking Trailer Park Boys over there. Freaking old fashions. But yeah, you gotta love cocktails, right? We should do a whole episode of Fantasy Football podcast where everyone just makes their own cocktail and talks about the recipe. That'd be fun.
I'm all for that one.
I'm all for that podcast.
Because for Drink5, the drinking is an important part of the fantasy.
It's basically slightly more than half of the whole thing.
We're just 5, and that makes no
51% of the fantasy football.
Yes.
Cocktails.
5/9, if you will.
That's right.
We are going to crack open the Freedom of Speech later on. That's from Revolution Brewing. And we've got a few of the all-day IPA session ales from Founders Brewery out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So those will be all very tasty. We're going to start out tonight. Well, tonight we called the show Hot Takes. We're going to have a bunch of hot takes. Talk about the NFC West, or the AFC West, the NFC North. We've got some Fantasy Fool's Gold from Dave. And first, we're going to do a little report card from last week. This will be just a real quick look at how we did and the players we picked last week. So we did trends last week. I talked about some trending up players, some trending down players. I did not have a great time. We'll get through this quickly. Kenyon Drake was trending up, but he got injured, so that sucks. But he was also having a terrible game. So I can't claim any credit there for pointing out a good trend from Kenyon Drake. We had Darren Fells, who his statistics were confusing to me because everywhere I looked it said, oh, his last game he had 17 points. I was like, oh, great. He had another great game. No. Last week he was in on 78% of the offensive snaps, did not see one target. So it's essentially a lost game for Darren Fells. So sorry if you started him as a streaming tight end because that was not the week to do it. My trending down players were Antonio Gibson. He was only in on 48% of the snaps, so it's kind of what I thought as far as splitting time with J.D. McKissic. However, the game script gave him 20 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. So Antonio Gibson had a great game. Juju Smith-Schuster, his game script probably contributed to what ended up happening because they were up most of the game, so that was different than what had gone on the last couple games. But he had 14 targets, which is more than double his season average. 9 receptions for 85 yards is a pretty good day for Juju. I believe his high in the season for yardage. And my last guy was Joshua Kelly. At least this one I got right. 12 carries, turned into 29 yards, 5 catches for 24 yards. Josh Kelly not working out right now for the Chargers.
Yeah, and just to interject there, I think you said Jerick McKinnon when you meant J.D. McKissic, but they both have similar names. We were talking about
I believe if you run the tape back, you're going to hear me say J.D. McKissick.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
You got Niners on the mind, my friend.
I'm thinking about the Niners.
You got the Niners on the mind. I give myself a D-. If anybody else wants to give me a better grade, thank you so much. If you want to give me an F, at least I got one right. So I'm saying D-.
We're going to go with a better grade. We're going to need an explanation as to why.
Well, let's talk about who did well.
Yeah, Dave gave us some deep
Smooth
league
segue.
pickups last week, and they went pretty well. So he suggested Derek Carr, who was the QB 12 on the week. He also suggested Daniel Jones, who was the QB 11, and he was a turf monster away from having a really long touchdown. If we had all full video capability up right now, you would just see Daniel Jones stumbling endlessly.
So many memes.
Just
It's
a repeated gif of him stumbling, but never quite falling. Just forever stumbling. Benny Snell found the end zone. That was another player that Dave suggested. He did only have 2 carries, so nobody's perfect, right, Dave?
Well, these were, to be fair, deep league and dynasty pickups to have on the squad.
Yes.
Not necessarily week 7
No,
plays.
these certainly weren't week 7 plays.
But they all seem to work out for me. So hey, who's counting?
You recommended A.J. Dillon, who had 5 carries for 11 yards. Aaron Jones, he is not. But Aaron Jones is gone, so A.J. Dillon still relevant in these deep leagues right now.
And AJ, he is.
Indeed. Brandon Ayuk had 6 for 115. That's a pretty good day. Good pick there. Henry Ruggs had only 3 touches, but turned it into 45 yards. A bit small of a sample size. And then you also picked Gerald Everett. He found the end zone. So, A-, Dave.
I'll take it.
A very good day. Cheers.
Thanks, Teach. Appreciate it.
Well done.
Boomtown.
So we promised you some hot takes. Tad's going to talk about the AFC West. If you have any questions as to where his loyalties lie, you can just look at his sweatshirt.
Big Charger fan.
Yes, huge. And Chiefs. Don't forget the Chiefs.
Obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that everybody.
He wears red as often as he possibly can.
It's true.
So Dave, or Tad, do you want to go over your takes? You want me to set you up?
Why don't you set me up?
Okay. So the Chiefs are who we think they are, right? So a lot of people have been losing their mind about the Chiefs signing Le'Veon Bell a few weeks ago. Count me as one of them. I was very excited to see that because I traded for Le'Veon Bell in a league. I really want this to work out. However, as you put it, Ted, it is like adding another glass of water into the Mississippi River. Kansas City offense is already pretty damn good. It's the defense that has to play to a high level, and they did last week. It was very impressive. But when the Raiders played them, they proved that if you can beat the crap out of the Chiefs' defense, keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline, you can beat the Chiefs.
Exactly.
So I want to know, do you think that Le'Veon Bell is going to rise to RB1 or 2 levels, or is he going to be a flex play at best?
So I think Bell's going to be a flex play at best. I think more so than what he can do. I think the bigger impact is going to be bringing Edwards-Helaire down a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, obviously he's going to be taking some of the production away from Edwards-Helaire. I was surprised to see the number of times that Bell got touches in his first game last week. I mean, it seemed like I saw more 26 than 25. I know that wasn't the case, but
I was really looking for 26. I played the 2 touchdown prop because, I had a few beverages beforehand.
that'll do it.
Don't drink and bet, kids. It's not a good idea. He had 6 for 39 last week. Great average, small sample size. He was only in on 33% of the snaps. So I expect that to go up.
And if he would have went to, he was also rumored to have gone to, what was it, Miami and Buffalo, I think, were the other finalists.
Sure.
If he went to one of those, then I could see him becoming an RB1 because there aren't as many options in those 2 offenses, at least in the backfield of Buffalo, and Miami is Miami.
Yeah.
But being in Kansas City, there's only one ball to go around for 60 minutes.
That's true.
No.
And the defense hogged it most of the time last week.
This is true.
Do you like Le'Veon as better than a flex play, Dave?
Yeah, I think we probably both agree on this in that I feel like it showed in this last week's performance that he was able to go on 2 pretty big scampers down the field that with a team like Kansas City, it's just so much better of an opportunity than the New York Jets. And while CEH will clearly
It's a real team.
still have a role, they're not just going to relegate him to no carries. I see no reason why Le'Veon Bell is not going to end up probably splitting the touches ultimately with Clyde. So that's how I feel like this is going to go. I mean, that guy, you don't get him to sit him on the bench. You get him for another championship run.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
you have them, you use them.
Yeah.
As you said, paraphrased, should I say, the Chiefs are who we think they are, and so are the Raiders. So it's definitely not the Lane Kiffin, Dennis Allen crap Raiders that we've seen that were a joke, as you say. But it's definitely not the John Madden, Tom Flores Raiders of the 70s and 80s. I totally agree with that. They need a lot of help on defense. I totally concur after seeing the way that Tampa Bay just walked up and down the field on them.
Yep.
So they have a favorable schedule, you're saying?
They do. Luckily, they're in Cleveland this week, which quite honestly could be their toughest matchup for the rest of the year, aside from a home game against the Chiefs.
When the Browns are your toughest matchup, on paper, you're in good shape.
I'm saying, I mean, you got 2 games against the Chargers, 2 games against the Broncos. They
play the Jets still.
The Jets, the Falcons,
The Dolphins, the Colts. The Colts
Colts
started well. They faded a little bit. We'll see how they look after bye.
Luckily, that one's in Vegas.
Yes.
But I mean, they're definitely going to ride their third place schedule to a possible playoff spot.
Okay. So fantasy-wise on this team, obviously we all love Josh Jacobs. We all love Darren Waller. But we talked about Derek Carr earlier. What I want to know is what's going on at the wide receiver position. Give me one wide receiver who's going to be the fantasy guy for the rest of the year.
You know, it's funny.
Or is there even one?
You know, and there is. And it is not who anybody would have thought of in August.
Okay.
I mean, when, right before the season, everybody's talking about Henry Ruggs or Tyrell Williams before he went down, or Hunter Renfrow stepping up in the slot, or even Zay Jones. It seems like Nelson Aguilar is the guy to have, and you want to have him in your league. He seems to have an incredible connection with Derek Carr. Ruggs, quite honestly, Ruggs has been disappointing to me. He's good for the 70-yard pass every now and then, but he doesn't really have a shorter mid game. Aguilar seems to be able to get you all three levels of a passing game for Derek Carr. So he's definitely taken over as the number 1 receiver in Vegas, and I'm so proud of myself for not saying Oakland. I was about to.
Well done.
We're all trying.
Right.
Nobody said San Diego all night.
There you go. Nelson Aguilar is definitely good for, I mean, at least 6 catches and, at least 80, 90 yards a game.
So if we were doing trends this week, Nelson Aguilar totally belongs on this list. 12.4, 13.7, then 19.2 last week. He's definitely trending up. Spoiler, he's not going to land on Dave's Fantasy Fool's Gold list either. So Nelson Aguilar, 4 touchdowns on the year. His targets are kind of low, but it looks like he's only, aside from last week, he dropped 1 pass all year.
Yeah, he's definitely he's made the most of when the ball's coming to him.
Yeah.
He's definitely making Philly fans and coaches a little bit upset right now. Where the hell was this the last few years?
For sure.
Was Nelson Aguilar the one that the guy was making fun of, who couldn't catch it? He wouldn't throw a baby out of a burning window to him?
I believe so. Yeah. I remember that. All burning babies are safe.
That was my favorite off-field moment of the football season last year.
It was quality.
Welcome to the division, Mr. Herbert. It seems like all the quarterback hype in the draft was Joe Burrow, was Tugo Tagovailoa.
And if you notice, I did spell that right. I will admit I did have to look that up. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 more years I'll be able to.
You guys tried very hard, and you came out on top.
Well, we figured out Mariota, and then he stopped playing.
I was still.
Well, Tagovailoa is a little more difficult, I feel.
I'm still personally riding high on the fact I know how to spell Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's gonna take me. That's gonna take me for a while.
In a couple of years when he's retired, we're gonna be like, oh man, what did we learn that for? Why do we have to hold these NFL weird player spellings in our head? At least, in my opinion, the defensive players are not, at least when you're not playing IDP leagues, are not shining stars or beacons of light in our discussions.
Well,
because they have even harder names.
I mean,
me.
Dave,
True, yes.
Can you spell Polamalu?
I think so.
You better be able to.
I don't want to be on
Just
spot.
a yes/no question.
No. I'm gonna say I'm not confident about that.
I can't even type it to look it up. I'm just gonna butcher it. Google will tell you how to spell it.
There you
Google knows all.
We all know who Polamalu is, however.
Yes. So, as we were mentioning these guys, Burrow, he's been good. Tua is going to be starting. His first start will be this week. And Justin Herbert, he's been awesome this year. He's like a quarterback one now.
Yeah, he has definitely made the most of what was just an incredibly weird way to get a starting job. Thank you, random attempted murdering team doctor
Is this
in L.A.
a conspiracy theory?
Soon to be subject of a lawsuit.
Like
Did the Herberts put him up to it? Like, what happened
Wait a
there?
minute, Team Dr. Herbert. Wait a minute. But no, I mean he's. I know it's a small sample size. He seems legit.
Yeah.
And the way that he's been able to produce has been a godsend for the likes of a Keenan Allen and the tight ends that they have there. He's definitely proven that he can be a franchise quarterback for LA.
Yeah.
Another trending up player as well. 24 points, 27.3, 38.48 last week against Jacksonville. 347, 3 touchdowns, 66 yards rushing, another touchdown on the ground. And that was like a diving touchdown in the end zone when the game was still competitive. It was really fun to watch him play last week.
I had a fantasy matchup last week with some bonuses and whatnot where his quarterback was Herbert, my quarterback was Kyler. We had 42 versus 42. 42 points for each quarterback. It was crazy.
That's fun. I love leagues with bonuses. I created a league just so that I could add a bunch of bonuses. I even created all-time record bonuses where you get if a player broke an all-time record, like the most rushing yards ever in a game or something, they'd get an extra 10 points.
Nice.
I just want I don't want someone to ever lose when that happens to their player.
Sure, I mean that's a nice little boost there. Yeah.
Someone gets 7 touchdowns in a game, 10 more points. Let's go.
Might as well.
So it sounds like you're sold as Herbert as a QB1.
I am.
Dave, what do you like? What do you think about him this year? Rest of the season, QB1.
Well, I think we've talked about him previously, and
yeah.
I like the people that he has at his disposal. I think that we'll see a lot more Mike Williams this season and going forward. I think that Mike Williams is a super huge component to that offense. I think Hunter Henry will be the tight end there for the rest of existence, probably. I mean, the guy's only like 25 years old. Of course, Keenan Allen has been this amazing player for that squad. I think that Herbert jumps into a situation that a lot of young rookie quarterbacks don't get the opportunity to have, which is a team that already has playmakers, and it's going to help him out a lot. And he's 100% already a top 15 quarterback. So whenever you can start above the Andy Dalton line in football, you're off to a good start.
Well, that's a good place to. It's definitely a good place to start from.
That's right.
I'm totally in the Justin Herbert as a QB1 camp this year.
I'll call him a 1.5, but I'm with you.
Okay, fair enough.
For the most part.
Maybe rest of season a 1.0.
Yeah.
John Elway, or maybe in a 12-team league.
John Elway.
I'm trying to get to the Broncos. I don't want to get to the Broncos. Let's just cover the Broncos real quickly.
He's talking about all-time record bonuses. I mean,
yeah, it's John Elway.
Tell me John Elway wouldn't be somebody that would come back just to try to break records. I mean, he seems like a guy.
Sure, he probably would.
How old is he? Can we get like a 56-year-old player back out in the field?
I think that's a record. That's 10 points in itself.
Are you talking about Brett Favre?
Right there.
No, John Elway.
No, Brett Favre may hear.
Brett Favre is challenge accepted.
For how many dick pics you can send out to no.
To reporters?
He's already got that 10
He's got that record.
He's got that record.
Like
Someone's got to break that record, then they get 10 points.
That's true.
So, over in Denver, John Elway is still looking for his guy. I agree with you. I don't know if Elway is serious about Drew Lock being the man there, or if he's just saying the things he's supposed to say because he's the GM and he's the one who drafted him. And, his eyes tell him differently, but he has to say what he has to say because that's what he's supposed to say.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, they are the only team in the division without a franchise quarterback. Drew Lock, maybe they'll try to make it happen, but I can't imagine that they would go a whole nother year with him playing this way. I mean, who was the rookie who started a few games this year? Was it Lock? No, Lock was hurt for a couple weeks, right?
He was, and
I can't remember his name. Because the guy won. Let's see.
Wow, the Broncos are relevant.
You're talking about Brett Ripon or Jeff Driscoll?
Ripon.
Yeah.
Ripon won a couple of games, I think.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to Denver since they seem kind of like an armpit when we describe them as part of a body. But did he win some games?
Well, Drew,
He
I think
beat the Jets, to be fair.
He beat
but
the
it was
Jets.
a primetime
So
game.
he
And
won
he
the-
actually
Everyone beats the Jets.
It was his
everybody
effort
gets a
to
Thursday
beat
night
the
game.
Jets.
Like it's a league rule that you have to have at least one primetime game. So that was the let's just get this one out the way for
What
both
you're
these
saying
teams.
is Brett Rypien beat the Jets.
And that was the only game he won.
Okay, so that's we can scratch that
yeah.
off.
So
right,
just
can't
stop talking, basically.
Fair enough.
we? Well, we're
He's
being
1-0
mean
as
here.
a starter.
I feel
There
like
you go. There you go.
He's
All-time record.
He's probably a nice guy. I mean,
He has the best winning percentage of any quarterback we're going to talk about tonight.
Son of Mark Rippon. I was a fan of those Redskin teams.
Okay.
Or,
I guess if
are
you're-
they football teams or
if you're 1-0, that's
Are
off.
they Redskins still?
yeah,
or
that's
are they
what I'm saying.
football
Like,
teams?
are they football teams?
You're not allowed to say Redskins.
Well, if you're talking about the past, we're going to talk about the Oakland or Los Angeles Raiders, the San Diego Chargers.
Way so much going on right now.
So we talk about the Washington Redskins
go.
in the past, I
That
believe.
is true.
Well, Rypien was in Boise State, and I don't even know exactly how they stack up in as far as all.
Do you know what color the football field is in Boise State?
Do you?
Yes.
Is it red?
No.
Oh,
That's
what?
Fresno State.
I don't know.
No, it's not Fresno?
Nope.
What, who has the red field?
That's the pride. That's the Cooper Cup alum of Eastern Washington that has
Ooh.
the red field.
Oh, okay.
That you're talking Division I AA right there. That's Illinois State territory. I got you right there.
No, the Boise State field
It's
is
blue.
blue. Yes.
Hey, that's weird.
I like it. Everyone seems to hate it. I like it.
It's Albertson Stadium, so it's because of like the groceries. Is that a?
I think it's been blue for a long time.
yeah, since I can remember.
Yeah.
Is it blue because it's sad?
Ever since the Sugar Bowl back in 05, that team.
Oh,
Fiesta.
Fiesta
That
Bowl.
the Oklahoma game.
Yeah,
The
that
Statue
was
of Liberty.
oh,
Yeah, that was a game.
what a game.
Yeah.
What some future NFLer proposed to his girlfriend after that game.
Yeah, Ian Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Drew Lock sucks.
And we're talking about lots of college football, and Sean Foss isn't even here. Make sure you go to our site to read the rookie report every week. You can check out Sean's takes on all the rookies. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Dave's making me say that at least 3 times a night now.
oh yeah, you can clearly
Even when we don't have podcasts, I have to just tell people when I bump into them.
you can see the shot collar around his neck, right?
So
Right.
cheers to Sean and his the work that he does on this side. So Sean, when you're on the podcast next up, you owe me a plug.
Okay.
Oh, very nice.
You guys are just hanging back and forth.
You're just paying it forward.
That's good.
Exactly.
That's quality.
So, are you guys writing off Drew Lock as the quarterback of the future in Denver?
I am.
Are they
I
going to lose for Lawrence?
I think that at this point, the Jets have the number 1 pick locked up. What they do with
So
it?
that probably means Trevor Lawrence is going to go back to school for another year.
I see. Now I am not 100% sold that the Jets will give up on Sam Darnold.
Okay.
I think that they may take offers and find 4 first-round picks or some sort of like super mega deal that they
4
take.
first-round picks for Sam Darnold.
No.
For
the
the number
first
1
overall.
for the number 1 pick.
For the pleasure of drafting Trevor Lawrence
So-
to keep him on your team for 20 years.
So basically, what I'm saying though is I don't think Trevor Lawrence to the Jets is a 100% certainty.
Okay.
And if
It's definitely not. I mean, he could always take the Eli Manning route and just refuse to play for them.
True. But I mean, if that option is open, or even if the Broncos finish high enough in the draft to where they have the option to draft a Trey Lance or Justin Fields or the kid from BYU, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, to get another high level quarterback, high potential, I think that Elway pulls that trigger.
I really like Sam Darnold and think he's a talented football player. And the Jets,
Zach Wilson.
the
Thank you.
Over
Jets
at
just
BYU.
have horrible coaching, and so I think the Jets need to give up on Adam Gase, not Sam Darnold.
Right.
You know?
Yes, that would be the smart
Yeah.
move for the Jets.
But I don't know if that's going to happen.
The
Guys.
Jets haven't made any smart moves in a long time.
This is also true. Like, they need more than just a quarterback.
Yeah.
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 So that's our AFC West expert, Tad Bukowski. Thank you, Tad. Make sure you guys check out his confidence pool
There you go. You said it
column
so
every
confidently.
week. Give us a little taste of the confidence. Who do you like? What's your number one? Not number one, but like your top team this week.
The top team. Well, speaking of our favorite high school level team, Adam Gase and his boys.
It's the Jets.
The Jets. I am quite confident that the Jets.
Do you know who they play this week?
Well, it's right here.
I've been
so-
saving my defense for this one.
me too, in a couple leagues. Yes, I'm not 100% sure that the Jets can go to Kansas City and
Score points.
I'm kind of confident. Like I don't have a house, but if I did, I would probably put that up as
if you
collateral
owned
or
a
some
house,
sort of a bet.
Yes.
That's
Perhaps you would bet the house.
I have a feeling that, and I haven't looked at lines or anything, right? But I imagine that if you were going to bet like Kansas City to win that game, you would win like hardly any money at all, because there can't possibly be a good line.
Do you know what the line is? Do you want to guess what the spread might be?
Minus a spread?
The spread.
Oh, let's go with 17.
It's more than that. What do you think the money line is?
Minus 1,400.
Just found it.
I think it's more than that. I think it's about 2,000.
It is 2,000.
It's 3,000 on FanDuel.
See how you can't even win money on that bet.
The spread is 19.5. It's minus 3,000.
So if you bet,
but
$10,
you get plus 1,300 on the Jets.
No one's gonna bet the Jets.
You want the points? You want 19.5 points?
If I bet the Chiefs $20 on the money line, get $1.
Ooh,
I'm saying.
Well, talking about fantasy, to bring it back, I had Kansas City Chiefs last week, and a lot of people said they weren't a great play. And I do rankings on Fantasy Pros. I did not have Kansas City Chiefs in like the top 5 last week, for example, because it wasn't an amazing matchup. However, I knew that holding them through this week would result in me having them play the Jets. And not only did they surprise us with like 20 plus fantasy points in a performance last week that was great, now they play the Jets. So based on last week's performance, should I be expecting 30 points from the Kansas City Chiefs defense?
At least. You're going to get your 10 points for a shutout.
Minimum.
I'm taking it.
I mean, like, and it's funny, like, that's kind of
You're
a strategy
get 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah, how many runbacks for touchdowns?
3 interceptions and 3 fumbles.
Cheers to the Kansas City defense, which is probably one of the best plays you could make this particular week.
Yeah, that's likely true. Oh, that's screwball, all right.
All right, where are we at, Jason?
Dave, you got some fool's gold for us?
So, Fantasy Fool's Gold, which I promised to make some really cool bumper sound effects for going forward here.
Fool's gold.
Exactly. That's like a weird Welsh leprechaun we got going on.
Okay.
No, there's some inside jokes there. So I'm talking about Fool's Gold as I refer to it. I'm thinking about someone who a lot of people might play this week.
It's a real thing, Dave.
And be excited about. And you mean the Welsh leprechaun?
It's called a knocker.
Oh, that's a whole podcast.
We'll get into this later.
Tune in next time for us to talk about the
Look
knockers.
at the knockers on that one. It means like little tiny Welsh leprechauns.
No, ma'am, I was just talking about the tiny Welsh
A little
leprechaun.
person 2 feet tall with a disproportionately large head, long arms, wrinkled skin, and white whiskers.
Oh my god.
It wears a tiny version of standard miner's garb and
did
commits random mischief, such as stealing miners' unattended tools and food.
All right, now
like
have fun thinking about that description and
That's
trying
like-
to fall asleep tonight.
Like underpants gnomes. Oh, I got to find out more about these knockers.
Oh,
I've
boy.
always said that.
So Fantasy Fool's Gold to me, and I'm the only person that matters when I write up the thing, it means that here are players that some people are going to play and be happy about playing, or grab off the waiver wire with a lot of hype, but it's not something that is real, in my opinion. It's not a true thing. It's something that has been either hyped up or is trending down, or because of other variables on that team is not going to work out for you. So let's talk about Josh Allen, who's my first guy. So do you guys like Josh Allen? To start the year, he was probably quarterback 8 or something like that.
Like his ADP, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the ADP, yeah, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
yeah, he was definitely in that neighborhood.
And I really enjoy the guy. I love Buffalo's play. I think that he's been really good, at least in the first part of the year. So let me talk about him for a bit. I do want to mention I love him. I have him starting on one of my fantasy teams. Almost drafted him in a couple other ones, but just got edged out one way or the other. A really interesting thing when we talk about fantasy is in drafts where you're not doing an auction, you often have to take someone because you were unable to get the guy that you wanted. And it's kind of the best when it works out in a good way.
Sure.
When it works out in a bad way, you sort of want to...
when you accidentally take the right player?
Yeah. You're like, oh, I didn't get Saquon because I got random numbered out of that.
Yeah.
And then Saquon doesn't play for
Oh, the
the
guy
rest of
right
the
before
season.
me took Michael Thomas. I wasn't able to take him. Damn.
Sucks for you, man. But I've been thinking about this for the last few weeks, and I think it's time to replace him on your team, or at least trade or bench him for someone trending up. So let's look at the last few games for Josh. Week 5 at Tennessee, he was 26 for 41, 26 of 41 completions, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 4 rushes for 18 yards. That's 18 fantasy points, roughly. Then week 6 versus Kansas City, he had 14 completions for 27 attempts, 122 yards, pretty rough. 2 touchdowns, though. Great job there. 1 interception, 8 rushes for 42 yards for a total of 16-ish fantasy points. Week 7 at the Jets, you'd expect him to have like sort of an all-star performance because everybody does, right? Are you playing the Jets or the Cowboys? Well, then play your guys. He had 30 completions, which is pretty impressive, out of 42 attempts. They were just chucking the ball everywhere. 307 yards, but no touchdowns. 11 rushing attempts for 61 yards. Again, around 16 fantasy points. So he's not putting up more than 20 over the past 3 weeks. In fact, he's not putting up more than 18.32. So for a guy that was drafted as a top 10 quarterback, at least for me, and someone that you wanted to have in your lineup every week, it's not worth it. You can find someone who's a little bit better. Let's talk about week 2 and 3. They were at 34.5 and 32.24 fantasy points, respectively. So we have an extended trend now downward that goes from 34 to 32 to 18 to 16 to 16. All the way across the season. And you know how I love trends.
You love him.
Allen has a history of picking up extra fantasy points with his legs. We talked about his rushing yards. They are important, but he has yet to break that 20-point line since week 4 against the Raiders. And here's the reason that I think that's happening. It looks like Allen's plays are falling apart. Decision-making has become questionable. His next matchup is against the Patriots in week 8. And Stephon Gilmore will likely be shadowing Diggs, as he's done in the past, really limited him to not very much yardage or touchdowns. I believe the last time that he played him in 2018, he was relegated to something like 50 yards and no touches. And I think that it puts Allen's ability to air the ball out and score on passing touchdowns in questions for this matchup. I do see a big Cole Beasley game coming up, a lot of PPR points for him, but that's probably not going to affect Josh Allen's points. And in fact, it might hurt because Beasley definitely is that guy who's catching the ball between the 20s, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Matchups coming up against the Cardinals, the Steelers, and the 49ers, all teams that are stingy against opposing quarterbacks. I just think it's time to find a new quarterback.
As well as New England this week.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's not looking good for Josh Allen and the Bills in general. Although they had somewhat of a strong start to the season, it feels like around week 5 when they played Tennessee on that Tuesday night game,
yes,
it just kind of crushed the spirits of the Bills.
Basically.
So let me get your guys' opinions on Josh, but he is a fantasy fool's gold for me, and I say if you can trade him, but you should probably look for a better quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we were talking about Josh Allen in the MVP race.
Oh, he was scoring 34 points a game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. After the first 3 games, he had 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Well, 12 with the 2 on the ground.
And rushing touchdowns with the passing touchdowns, yeah.
And everything is just, again, everything has just gone downhill since. Like you said, when you put up 300 yards against the Jets, but you're not able to put the ball in the end zone, that's bad. That's just a bad game right there.
The whole team did not score.
Right.
It was all field goals. So one of the unfortunate quirks of Josh Allen's schedule is that he'll be playing New England in Week 16.
Ooh.
And that's a tough matchup. New England still has a good passing defense. They're giving up the 4th fewest points to opposing quarterbacks right now. I think that at the very least you need to find a replacement, a second guy that you can play matchups with. So you start him against Seattle because Seattle's giving up the most points to opposing quarterbacks. But then you make sure you have someone for when they play New England, like Dave said, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, the teams that are being real stingy. So that's a bold pick, Dave, but I think that your logic is sound.
You know, I like bold picks, just like Tad does. And if you check out his confidence picks, he generally has a bold pick cotton for you every week. Do you have a bold pick this week?
You know, I don't have it just yet, but tomorrow afternoon we're going to get this up on the website. And, yeah, we'll get something
Do you have any?
Extra bold
Do you
for
have any idea about what those hot takes might be that bold pick that you're going to add in, or is that still you're still brewing it?
It's something that it just comes to me.
Okay.
Like as I'm typing it out, it's like boom. You know,
The muse
it's-
must speak to him.
Exactly.
So basically, I'm slacking, Dave. Thanks.
No.
Like I haven't done it yet.
Hey, no worries. So let's talk about the next guy I have. There's only 3 of these guys. We'll move on to another division to talk about it. Here's Jamichael Hasty. So the fantasy community has been a buzz lately. I love that word, a buzz, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a lot of Z's. Zzz, that's what I hear. It's a lot of noise from everywhere, right? Reddit's fantasy football subreddit. You go to places like Roto World or Roto Baller or any of these websites that you might congregate to talk about fantasy football, and everyone's talking about Hasty. Undrafted free agent rookie earlier this year, picked up by the 49ers. Back in August, he impressed at camp, as a lot of rookies do. Of course, right? Beat reporters each season, they always inflate how rookies are doing. But I happen to believe that he did have an impressive camp over there. Here's what they had to say about him. They said, David Lombardi, a staff writer for The Athletic, who covers the 49ers, he said, Hasty has been elusive, separates on pass patterns and one-on-one drills, and is difficult for defenders to square up because of natural fluidity and change of direction ability in traffic. So that sounds great. A few of the issues, though, just so you guys know, and perhaps the main reasons that he was not drafted, are that he often bounces runs outside. It's difficult for him to get through a pile or to, in early down work, go through a line. He has serious trouble in pass protection, which is a huge one, as noted by PFF. 14 pressures in big moments, including a few in the Big 12 championship game when Baylor passes. If you go back and look at that, in fact, there's videos on YouTube specifically about Hasty and his pass protection in that game. He's been referred to as a prototypical scat back. You know what scat backs are?
This is a family-friendly show, Dave.
He's not a shit back. He's a scat back. No, I don't want to say that he's a bad player. I don't think that. But he's a scat back through and through without exceptional speed or power, added another PFF report on Hasty. So let's look at his stats. Week 3 at the Giants, he had 2 rushes for 9 yards, 1 reception for 9 yards. Obviously, at this point, just sort of a backup personnel. Week 6 versus the Los Angeles Rams, 9 rushes for 37 yards. He was able to get in the game. He had what is a decent yards per carry, which I don't know what it is offhand, probably 4.5.
4.1.
Week 7 at New England, he had 9 rushes for 57 yards, 1 reception for 16 yards. And in that particular game, they were playing the Patriots. Did you watch the 49ers and Patriots game, guys?
I caught a decent amount of it.
Yeah, they wound up on red zone a lot because the 49ers were scoring all the time.
Exactly. So there wasn't a lot of Patriots in that game. Jeff Wilson actually was the guy tearing up the Patriots. He was just driving right down the middle, and it looked like, and I heard a lot of people saying that he was just driving with emotion and force, and he ended up going down with an ankle injury, being carted off the field. And super sad moment because that guy was looking like he was just going to destroy the world.
Yeah, that was on his 3rd touchdown too. Like,
Exactly.
It was sad.
Jerick McKinnon, or Jet as he's often referred to. Do you guys familiar with his nickname Jet?
I am now.
Okay. He was being rested in Week 7, according to Shanahan, as well as the previous week. I guess McKinnon obviously has had, over the past 2 years, issues with his knee, and Shanahan has wanted him to be safer, more healthy towards the end of the year. Well, that's going to be hard, considering that you've just lost Jeff Wilson, and before that, Raheem Mostert. You don't really have a lot of running backs left. What's going on over in San Francisco, Jason, that these running backs just keep getting injured like crazy over the past couple of years?
I mean, they're lucky that they generally seem to have about 8 of them on the roster at any given
true.
time.
That's true.
But yes, they drop like flies in the Bay right now. You know, one thing I don't know. I'm not totally sold on Jerick McKinnon. I got to be honest. The 2 games that he started this year, he was 14 for 38 and 14 for 51 on the ground. He's added some work through the air to make it a little more relevant.
Well, I'm not quite finished yet, but
Okay.
I appreciate your input. I mean, I agree that he has not been someone who's been a world burner, but that's mostly because Shanahan changes up whoever is the person behind the curtain a lot. You know, so like they switched to Jeff Wilson because they thought Jeff Wilson would do well against New England's defense. Well, it worked. So good for them. Sometimes it doesn't work. Anyway, let me finish, and I'd be happy to give you guys a moment to give your opinions. But I think the deal is I failed to see the hype about Hasty based on his stats and his work there so far. I think it has to do a lot with recent memories for fantasy team managers of another undrafted free agent pickup by the 49ers. It ended up being the RB1 in San Francisco, had a stellar 2019, Raheem Mostert. And, this is not how football works. It's not just the 49ers every year pick up a new UDFA that becomes a fantasy stud. That's not how trends work. That's not how football works. Hasty will not take over all the carries in this offense. And he certainly won't be playing regularly in pass protection based on how he's performed in those downs. It's much more likely to me that McKinnon will have an expanded running back / wide receiver role with Deebo Samuel out. That's the kind of thing that Deebo used to do. And in fact, he did well with that role when Deebo was out in weeks 2 and 3. So I expect that same kind of performance now, and I think there's a good chance that Tevin Coleman also suits up this week against Seattle. He was just activated, designated to return. And what's really funny, just as a side note, is that I think this year more than any others, people are so confused about IR. Because not only are people only supposed to be on IR or have to be on IR for 3 weeks at a time now, but you can do unlimited amount, I'm pretty sure, of IRD. And so even even places like RotoWorld are like, he's activated. I'm like, no, he's not. He's not back. He's just on IRD. They have like 3 weeks to activate him.
Yeah.
And people are so confused right now because they're like, he's coming off IR. Why isn't he off IR? He's not off IR. It's IRD.
That happened to me last week with Sterling Shepard. On Tuesday, they were like, oh, they've designated him to return, and then they immediately activated him.
Right.
And I didn't even realize that. Thursday rolls around, he's still on my IR, locks in place.
Yeah, and
can't make moves all weekend.
This could happen to anybody because it used to be there's only like 1 or 2 IRDs.
It could happen to you.
You could only have 1 or 2 IRDs for the season, and now you have to. They're going to do it every single time. They might activate him this week or next week or the one after. Anyway, I think there's a good chance he suits up this week against Seattle based on what beat reporters are saying. And the 49ers would likely shift Hasty back to a support position if McKinnon and Coleman are both healthy and able to play in this game. I do like Hasty. I completely understand the desire to catch him on the way up to a running back 1 or running back 2 or flex position. I just don't think it's going to happen, and it smells like disappointment to me.
Interesting.
What do you guys think? I know you don't believe in Jerick McKinnon, which I don't think he's going to suddenly be the lead back there. I just feel like he's going to take over the role he had in week 2 or 3.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of production that goes on at the running back position, and that if someone is going to be given the work, that they're going to make the most of it, and they're going to have RB1 numbers. It basically, someone on that team is an RB1 every week.
Yeah, I think when Mostert started to break out at the end of last year, that was really the first time where the Niners seemed to have a clear number 1 running back for the last few years, almost in like the whole Kyle Shanahan era. It's an offense that it's a running back by committee. So, I mean, you're not going to get one running back. Jeff Wilson had the 3 touchdowns.
But kind of like
week.
On a game-by-game basis.
Exactly.
Rather than an in-game basis.
Right. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. And they try. I think it seems to me that when they have a guy like Mostert or Coleman 3 injuries ago, they'll give him the ball all game long. And then like week 3 when they played the Giants, they blew out the Giants. They wound up splitting 14 carries to McKinnon, 12 carries to Wilson.
Well, I just want people to understand that Hasty is a scat back who's not good at pass protection, and so he will never be the all-down back in the 49ers. And that's what people think he's going to be.
That's sort of an end of story there, really. I mean, so
end of story.
You just like saying scat back.
Well, I saw people, wanting to acquire this guy for like $20 of their FAAB, for example, or getting him like first priority, and I just don't see him being anything more than maybe running back 2 on some weeks. He hasn't scored a touchdown. He hasn't gone more than like 54 yards in the rushing game.
Maybe there wasn't anybody else I wanted to pick up.
I'm not talking about you. This is not a personal
I feel personally attacked here.
Well, that's the thing about fantasy, right? Because we talk about, like, you could say, why did you pick up that guy? Like, I like Mike Gesicki this week, and later we'll talk about him as someone to maybe cut from your team. And I'm like, but you shouldn't feel personal. It's just about how you think that player will be in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, but when I come up with a cut list, I start at your rosters.
Very good, very good. All right, number 3. The last guy I have on my list is Rashard Higgins. Oh, Cleveland. This is a soliloquy. It's always something with you, Cleveland. So the latest issue for the Brown Bombers, which was their original name, if you didn't know, and definitely more on the nose when we talk about their performances within memory as a franchise, is their WR1 Odell Beckham.
I think they're more like a scat back.
Tearing. I mean, I've got Steelers stuff behind me on the wall, so it's no doubt that I make fun of the Brown Bombers, who just happen to bomb all the time. Yes.
Well played.
Okay.
Well played.
So Odell Beckham ACL week 7, tragic, right? But let's be fair about it. Apart from week 4's rout of the Dallas secondary, Odell putting up 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, Beckham has not really impressed. Do either of you guys have Beckham on one of your fantasy teams this year?
I did not have him anywhere this year.
No, but
I used to always draft
Good
him.
for you guys. I didn't either. And so I'm not disappointed here, but I got to tell you, there was only one really good game, especially where you had to get Beckham. Even though
he had a rushing touchdown that game too.
Even when he dropped down the rankings for the preseason for ADP for drafting, he was still too high for me. Beckham has not at all impressed with Mayfield this year. In fact, lots of rumors swirling around put the two high-profile athletes at odds with each other. That they don't like each other. That they are basically squabbling all the time. And I have to agree with that. I've seen a lot of Browns fan communities strangely happy that the quarterback that OBJ is out for the season. And they're saying, oh, he's gone now, so that thing that was bothering us is no longer there, and the Browns will be good now. Okay, Browns fans. Settle down.
I think they're just grasping at straws.
When your best receiver is out for the season, it doesn't mean you're a better team. Let me just explain that to you guys. But that said, thinking that Mayfield will have less conflict or more success without the diva receiver, maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. So let's look at Rashard Higgins, who is a guy who will somewhat replace that sort of deep kind of threat that Odell is. Week 7 at Cincinnati, he had 6 targets, 6 receptions, 110 yards. Nice. And that's after
very nice.
That's after Beckham went down, like after the first pass that Mayfield threw. So that was pretty much the whole game that Higgins played. And Higgins has recently been coming off the bench to score touchdowns for some reason. I haven't figured it out yet, but looking at week 5 and 6 against the Colts and the Steelers respectively, he caught a couple of passes and a touchdown in each matchup. So why shouldn't we trust Higgins? He's moving into a position that should net him a fantasy relevant number of targets in the Browns offense. And I think that he has only been in his career a streaky boom or bust receiver in the past. So think about Mike Wallace when he was like on the Dolphins, right? Was it the Dolphins? I have a hard time thinking back.
I want to say yes. I want to say yes.
So when Mike Wallace was on the Dolphins, he might have like 110 and a touchdown, but then the next 3 games he has nothing or 20 yards or 30 yards. That's what I think about Rashard Higgins as. And the fact that Landry should be soaking up most of the targets left by Odell's departure, not Higgins, and that Nick Chubb is slated to be back in Week 10, which should restart Cleveland's rushing machine and limit the success of the passing game, because why did they win all those games in the beginning of the season? The rushing game, not Baker Mayfield, not the receivers. What are the coaches going to go back to? The rushing game. And so I think Higgins might be fantasy relevant for the next 2 weeks as a boom or bust receiver, but it's more like a coin flip. I'd feel more comfortable without having Higgins on my lineups at all and getting someone that's going to be valuable for the rest of the season and not for just a moment in time.
It's true. But, I mean, if you want to talk about the moment in time, if you just need somebody for this week.
Yeah, sometimes you need to win this week and worry about next week.
Well, I still feel like it's a flip, and like you might start him and be like, okay, I've got the guy, 2 targets, 1 reception, 12 yards.
Well, let me tell you what. This week, they're playing the Raiders. All right, yeah. He's going up against that Raiders secondary. So, yeah, you definitely want him. There's potential to have a big game.
Okay, well, I think there's no floor
Las
here.
Vegas giving up the 10th most points to opposing wide receivers.
But I think it's going to be mostly Landry is what I think in that particular offense. But no, granted, guys, I'm kind of hedging my bet here by saying it may be okay for a week or two, but this is not a guy to acquire and play for the rest of the year.
No, it's funny. Higgins, I think in our dynasty league, I think Higgins has been on my roster roughly 5 or 6 times in the years.
Yeah, right. I see like on off.
Yeah.
In a dynasty league, when you see that someone has been cut and acquired like 5 times, you know that he's not going to amount to anything.
That's like Rob Gronkowski on my team.
Plus, it's not only will Higgins have the opportunity to step up, but don't forget about Donovan Peoples-Jones in Cleveland as well. He'll be benefiting from Beckham being out as well.
Man, we could have a whole show about this guy, and
Dave would love to do a whole show about the Browns.
About Peoples-Jones, because
about one Browns player.
Well, this guy people have been talking about for a long time. Also Jones, and I think that he's someone who, especially in dynasty and deep leagues, needs to be owned. I
think so. I mean, I am. I don't know if you know this, but I'm also a big Michigan football fan. Donovan Peoples-Jones was another one of the star receivers in Michigan. Michigan is known for having, stud receivers. They don't always pan out to be, big in the NFL, David Terrell. But Peoples-Jones now has the opportunity. He's the one that Baker went to for the game-winning touchdown last week against Cincinnati. It seems like there's a connection there that's worth keeping an eye on.
Oh, and there's another guy, which I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Cadrell Hodge.
Sure.
And so these are also guys that are going to compete with Rashard Higgins for the touches, and that's you're just bolstering my point, which is why I don't think this guy is someone to acquire, not someone to play. I think that it's going to be dangerous messing around with Higgins when we know that Higgins' ceiling in a season is like 500 or so yards and a scattering of touchdowns, and he's never going to be that guy who can replace or can be a wide receiver 1 or 2 on a team. But there we go for Fantasy Fool's Gold. So I'll put those up online. And check out my rankings as well at fantasypros.com under David Biggs, Drink 5. They're updated every single week. I was number 6 last year in 2019 for fantasy football draft rankings. That's out of 150, 180, something like that, fantasy experts. And I appreciate the golf claps. And I hope to do as well or better this year. The funny thing about that is that I can't even see what I do until after the season's over.
Well, the things have to be done first.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you can compare Dave with other experts and create your own sort of expert consensus rankings there, or you can go to drinkfive.com and see Dave's actual rankings all on their own.
Yeah, a lot of experts have them behind paywalls. If you talk about guys that I respect a lot, but
feel free to send us money when you look at Dave's rankings and win your game.
No.
we accept payment in beer.
Yeah, send us beer. We don't
and whiskey.
We don't accept money in the mail.
I need a refill.
Someone buy Tad a drink. So we will move over to the NFC North, and the Bears are who we thought they were again. So Monday night they had a dismal performance, and everyone in Chicago, and we are here in Chicago, so we hear it a bit more. All the Matt Nagy haters have come out of the woodwork to just bitch and complain about his play calling. I'm not going to defend it. I don't think it was that great. Maybe they'll turn it around. I don't know that the fans should be so harsh to judge him on one game when that one game contained Aaron Donald, probably the best player in the NFL, who is playing like it this year. He's very good as usual, and he had a great game last night or 2 nights ago, and he disrupted the Bears offense, and it's probably not that hard to disrupt the Bears offense.
Not much.
They have a lot to be. They leave a lot to be desired from a fantasy perspective this year. It makes a lot of their players hard to rely on. But my hot take about the Bears is that they're going to be playing in January when 18 other teams are self-quarantining. Bears already are 5-2. Looking at the rest of their schedule, I see 5 to 6 winnable games. All they need is probably 3 more wins in order to get into the playoffs. And
that I may challenge you on that, the way the NFC is. If you look past the NFC East, because that's just a whole thing in itself.
Well, the NFC South isn't that great either.
You've got every team.
All they have to do is beat one of the NFC West teams, and they're going to make the playoffs.
See, I mean, right now every team in the NFC playoffs, if the season ended now, except for the NFC East, has 5 wins.
Sure, but remember, there's 7 teams now, not 6.
Exactly. All the playoff teams. Then I still think I think that leaves the Saints with 4 wins that are on the outside right now. Like this is gonna be, even with that extra team, you're gonna need 10 wins in the NFC to make the playoffs.
Interesting.
And
I think 9 will get it for sure, and I think there'll be at the end 1 team with 8. Because there's a lot of division games left to go. These teams are going to start beating up on each other.
That's true. And I think a lot's going to depend on these next few weeks for the Bears. That we're talking Saints, Titans, Vikings bye week.
The Vikings are eminently beatable. Their defense is terrible.
And then the Packers. So in the 3 of the next 4 games are Saints, Titans, Packers.
I feel like they have the potential to steal a game from the Packers, but even counting off the Packers, they can beat the Lions again. They can beat the Vikings twice. That's 3 wins right there. That brings them to 8.
As Dave referenced my bold predictions earlier, one of them was a week or 2 ago. I did say that the Bears would not make the playoffs, and I still stand by that today.
All right.
Even with a 5-2 record.
All right. So my question, though, about these guys is fantasy relevant, of course. Is there anyone on the Bears offense worth starting every week?
I'm taking a pick.
Is it just Allen Robinson this week? Every week, that is? Is David Montgomery out of your I'm going to start him every week mode, or is there someone in there that I'm not thinking of?
I mean,
that I'm missing, like Jimmy Graham or something like that.
I mean, I'm starting to see, articles being written that Anthony Miller should just be written off now completely.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Vince says they will not beat the Lions again.
Okay.
I have to interject real quickly with a
We got a question here.
A question: would you start Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert this week? From MathQuest, and I have to say, MathQuest, my rankings, my particular rankings say start Justin Herbert against Denver over Lamar Jackson versus Pittsburgh, and the reason why I say that is mostly because of the division rivalry between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, how close those games normally are. I mean, if you even look at last year with Pittsburgh putting up the whoever the fuck they have at quarterback versus Baltimore, they were still in the game. It didn't matter if it was Duck Hodges, doing his duck call.
Pittsburgh still has not given up 20 points to an opposing quarterback.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh
the 7th fewest points to opposing quarterbacks.
Pittsburgh's at 17.1 fantasy points per game.
Denver is 12th most
at 20.8 fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
And totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, Denver gave up 23.6 points to Sam Darnold.
Let's talk about it. If you're a quarterback, who would you rather play? Pittsburgh with T.J. Watt running up against you to try to sack the shit out of you, or Denver, a team that has lost its will to be a football team?
I will say though, Denver did keep Mahomes in some sort of check last week.
No, I have to say their defense is still good. The secondary is a little bit suspect because they've lost a couple people from it. But I still think Justin Herbert, I know he's a rookie, but against Denver, a better matchup than Baltimore versus Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm all about Herbert on this one.
Yeah.
I do think, and my apologies to you, Mr. Biggs. I do have Baltimore winning this week. I don't think that it'll be so much with Lamar influence.
Is that your 1 or 2?
That is my 2, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, my team is great, and we're referring to Pittsburgh. And if they lose to Baltimore, it will not be without a fight. So
it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this matchup. It was originally scheduled to be a Monday night game, wasn't it?
I don't know that they flexed
or at least a Sunday. No, it got moved because of the Titans.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, one of the,
I think you might be right.
Full of COVID.
The Titans full of COVID.
Yeah. So I'm going to let us all off the hook and move on from the Bears, just like everyone in Chicago should do. So another whiskey for Mr. Rodgers, please.
Oh, will do.
All right. So the NFL's resident madman, Aaron Rodgers, threw another 4 touchdowns last week. He is now a few points behind Dak Prescott on the season. Just to give you a little context of how insane Dak Prescott was this year. I think that with only one leg, Dak would still be a QB1.
Do you want any or no?
Just like,
a bit.
So we had Devontae Adams back last week. 38 points from this guy. Aaron Jones is out. The Packers did not slow down at all. So my hot take of this week about the Packers is that Jamal Williams will finish in the top 12 running backs, and that the Packers will be first place this season in the NFC. Number 1 seed, Packers.
It's hard to say that won't be the case because Aaron Rodgers has been lights out. Even without Devontae Adams, they were still playing well. Even without Aaron Jones, it doesn't really matter. They seem to just be doing extremely well and on a mission.
Well,
from
you've
God.
got they're on a mission from God. You've got the Seahawks and you've got the Bucks both playing very well right now.
Yeah.
But I think that the Packers are going to be the team at the top getting a bye this week.
Yeah, the last few years, the team has been ride or die with Rodgers. If Rodgers is having an off year, then
Rodgers is riding this year.
he is riding. I am happy to have him on a couple.
So now it's Jordan Love getting those 3 fingers of tequila as he takes a back seat for an indefinite amount of time.
Sure, I think it's whiskey for celebration, tequila for what would the opposite of celebration be?
Defeat?
Sad face.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't really a defeat when they drafted Jordan Love, but
I called that, by the way.
very good.
Cheers all.
So, my question for you guys, would you start Jamal Adams this week? Jamal Adams.
You did
Jamal
say
Williams.
I was going to point out you said Jamal Adams on
Yep,
that. Was
Jamal
fantastic.
Williams.
I wouldn't start Jamal Adams, but Jamal
Probably
Williams
not worth starting.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's basically just a replacement for Aaron Jones, who has just been off the chain this year. I mean, it's yeah, that's he's just
This is an easy one. Yes.
Yeah, I think Williams was pretty good in replacement for Aaron Jones last week, and I actually have Williams right now at number 31. But I will probably move him up as it becomes more clear that Aaron Jones is not going to play because I don't believe he's actually been ruled out for the week yet. So if he does get ruled out for the week, I will likely move him up to around the 23 to 24 mark, which is where I currently have Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette, James White.
Okay.
And I think that he's going to be a solid RB2. So depending on the matchups that I see, etc., he could go as high as like 19. But I put him like 19 to 25.
To make that list of the people who predicted the breakouts right, you're going to need to put him in the top 12.
Okay. Well, I'm probably not putting.
He's
going to
be in the top 12.
Do you think he will?
I do.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. I think he's a great player. I just feel like there are possibilities of them also using A.J. Dillon more this week because they kind of know who he is. He's been in the organization for a while. So I wouldn't be surprised.
It's the other way around. A.J. Dillon is the rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jamal Williams is the one who's been there for a long time.
No, not more than Williams. Just that they have seen him now for a number of weeks, and so they're more comfortable using him in a football game. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Don't be surprised to see A.J. Dillon have 10 carries in this game is what I'm telling you. I happen to agree with you. If you have Jamal Williams, start him. If you have Jamal Adams, don't start him.
Fair enough.
I think we can make that our lock for the week.
That's the lock of the century of the week. That's right.
Right up there with picking the Chiefs over the Jets.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to know what's up. We got another question?
Well, Vince is wondering if he missed Tua Talk, which is a Miami
We talked a little Tua
radio
earlier.
show.
We didn't have a little tour.
We did talk about Tua. We'll probably talk about him a little bit more
Tiny Tua.
here at the end as well.
Tad.
Yep.
Just a tad.
But not Tad.
Ah,
Lowercase t.
Oh my God.
So, how Detroit Lions is it
My name's
to
a
celebrate
word.
your opponent accidentally scoring a touchdown?
7 out of 10 Detroit Lions.
oh my God, that was fantastic. I'm watching that without sound, and I'm like, wait, what the hell? What's going on?
Why are they so happy? He just scored. It worked out in the end for the Lions. Good job. They choked a little less than the Falcons did.
Yeah.
Fantastic. They are they won the battle of the most polite teams in the league, meaning teams that can't help but just give their opponent the lead at the end of the game. So it's hard on this team, the Lions, to find a bright fantasy spot outside of T.J. Hawkinson. He is in the third tier of tight ends with 5 other guys who are in like the 60s for points this year. So he is averaging 10 points a game. He has a very high floor. I think his worst game was like 7.8 points, which is great for a tight end. That's more than a touchdown on average. So it's about all you can ask of a regular tight end unless you have like Travis Kelce. So my hot take for the Lions for the rest of the year is that no one will finish in the top 20 at their position other than Hawkinson, who is going to finish top 10. So I'm talking Stafford, Galladay, Swift, anyone else you can throw at me. None of them are going to be top 20 guys.
Galladay seemed to be a bit of a disappointment so far this year from what he was hyped up to be. I will say, though, that Deandre Swift seems to be turning a bit of a corner.
He absolutely is, but Detroit is known.
It's a wide corner. I think it's going to take him some time.
Detroit is known to have successful backs turn into unsuccessful backs.
Very true.
But I do agree with you. He's looking like he's a trend up, and
I think
perhaps
I saw something like 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Something
yeah,
like that.
I mean it's looking good.
Yep. So we got a question from the chat room. We want to know one to sit this week. It's a standard scoring league. Got Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Boyd, and Tyreek Hill.
Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, that feels like an easier pick in my book.
Yeah, I'm good with the Tyler Boyd.
Okay,
Yep.
Tyler Boyd.
Is that what your rankings also tell us, Dave?
Standard, half PPR, whatever you choose. Tyler Boyd is the odd man out there. So it's not that he can't have a great game, because he obviously has been able to, but not as likely as the other guys.
You can make a case, though, for Diggs, to give Diggs a rest.
We just talked about Diggs
Exactly.
being covered by Stephon Gilmore from
Right.
New England Patriots.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even in like the bad games that he's had, he ends up having 54, 60 yards on 4 or 5 receptions. Now, you are in a standard league, so I guess then at that point you're talking about whether or not
I'd go ahead and try out. Well, I don't like Boyd that much because they've sort of rediscovered A.J. Green.
Yeah.
Green,
I was
Higgins,
just gonna say, yeah.
T. Higgins has been great.
Bernard's getting a lot of passes, especially while Mixon is out. Well, I understand why you asked the question, but
Yeah.
I still think that Boyd right now is the guy to sit.
So we'll keep going with a few questions here from the chat room. We want to know, for a WR2 position, would you go with Robert Woods or Travis Fulgham? Robert Woods is going to be playing the Dolphins. They're playing in Miami, and Fulgham is playing the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football.
In my standard league rankings, I have Woods at 18 and Fulgham at 19, so I'll let you guys decide this one.
I'm not certain that this was a standard. It's a half PPR. So I like Fulgham as well.
Yeah, we talked about it before. Like, who's playing the Jets or the Cowboys this year? Like, it's the defense is.
It's such a great matchup.
Yeah, so I'm
It's hard
definitely
to
on Fulgham.
deny that.
Also, it's going to be very unpredictable what happens in the Miami game, because new quarterback. It could be huge advantage Miami. It could be a horrible defeat where they just run the ball. It's really hard to predict.
All right, we're going to pick 2 quarterbacks here, 6-point passing touchdowns. Disclaimer, there's a chance that one of us might wind up facing these two. So we've got Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Jared Goff. In a 2-quarterback league, my friend, you don't have good quarterbacks.
So, again, quarterbacks, I have Ryan at 12, Goff at 13, and Newton at 14, so you guys pick one. I would say Ryan, personally.
We're picking 2, so you're saying sit Ryan?
I would say Ryan and Goff sit Newton.
Yeah, I don't want to play Cam Newton right now.
But they're all right there for me in a cluster. Why do you have a cluster of quarterbacks? Trade one or do something so that you don't have to have this horrible decision every single week.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun way to set your lineup every week.
Not a good.
Do you have like a really good bench player you can start at the superflex position?
That's tough, man. That's rough.
No. So I want to ask one more question about the Lions. Are you going to sell your Lions players on the roster right now?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still holding out hope on Galladay. I mean, it's the Lions as shaky as their run game has been historically. Their passing game, Stafford always seems to have a 400-yard game, like nothing. Just out of the blue, multiple times. It's I can't give up on Galladay.
You know, I like Galladay too, and I don't think you should necessarily sell your Lions players. And the time is come and gone to sell Marvin Jones, for example, Kerryon Johnson. Those guys are now drops. So what you really should do
They're not even worthy of the cut list.
You should hold those guys, whether you're in redraft or dynasty. There's no reason to have anybody else.
Oh, we need for the cut list. We need like a smoking Jay Cutler icon.
There you go.
Yes,
we'll get better at this. But yeah, I mean, right now, who do you have on that team that's relevant? You have Swift and Galladay and Hawkinson.
Yeah, I mean, even Matt Stafford's like the QB 23.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, the Lions have shown one thing over the years, that they're able to turn on a dime and just and pivot and do something different. But we should just be happy that there are some players on the team that are fantasy relevant. And I know Galladay's been shaky, but I think he'll do better as the season progresses. So I don't sell him because it'd be selling low.
That's a good point.
Except for Swift, in which case if I am in a keeper league or something like that, I would absolutely 100% of the time sell Swift right now for as much as I could get for him. Because I don't believe in the longevity of Detroit Lions running backs.
Interesting.
Do you have him? Are you going to sell him to me?
Let me just work this out here real quick.
It's like, I'll take a first-round pick. And
Okay, last team in the NFC North. We've got the Vikings, who didn't play last week, and I didn't miss them at all. I even traded for Justin Jefferson before his bye week. I wasn't like, got to get him in. So I will be starting him this week because Justin Jefferson's awesome. He's one of the best. He is the best rookie wide receiver so far this season, fantasy-wise. The Vikings have other fantasy bright spots. Dalvin Cook is very good. Adam Thielen is awesome. Through 6 games, they have scored 1 fewer point than the Lions. That's absurd. I really don't know how that's possible on a team that has so many good players, so much talent, how they could score fewer points than the Detroit Lions. So I already made fun of the Lions a few times, so I'll leave them alone. Sorry, Vince. But my hot take is that the Vikings will finish with 2 top 12 wide receivers this year, and that they will also be last place in the NFC North.
Oh, that was a sour, wasn't it?
yes, it was a sour.
I was not giving proper warning.
Sorry, we were listening to you. But I didn't tell him that was a sour beer, and he was like, oh, God.
Well, that's why we have video now, so everyone can see Tad's reaction.
Bitter beer face.
Okay.
I think, if you and I go to the video right now, we're about to see it.
Oh, oh that's right. I see it right now.
Because we're a little ahead of things. Here we go.
I think you're right, by the way. So I'll back you up on that.
So yeah, I like I said, I think that the 2 receivers, Jefferson and Thielen, will be able to finish in the top 12. Thielen's already like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Jefferson's just outside that, and that the Vikings are going to finish in last place of their division.
It's unfortunate because
1 in 5 Vikings.
Because they have really good wide receivers, and they have Dalvin Cook, and they have a quarterback that should be good. And I think what's missing is their defense, which used to be a best of show. You know, if they were a dog, it would be fluffy and able to jump over things and obey commands really well. But unfortunately, they are not that, and they just have been unable to prevent the other teams from scoring against them.
Yeah. So Dave, I think you're the closest person to a cheesemonger here at the table. My question for you is, why is the Vikings defense made out of Swiss cheese when a hard cheese like Parmesan would clearly help them give up fewer points?
Yeah, you would think that they would choose a different kind of cheese. They have so many that they're so good at. In Wisconsin, for example, there's a couple of different cheese companies that make hard cheeses. And maybe if we looked at some of these other companies like Marlicki Gouda or Upland's Cheese Company Pleasant Ridge Reserve.
Yeah.
We're talking about in Minnesota. They have plenty of hard cheeses as well.
They are, in fact, the number 6 cheese-producing state in the United States.
Singing Hills Dairy, Shepherd's Way Farm, the Caves of Faribault. So I don't really understand why Minnesota is not able to produce that hard cheese that they really need here.
Yeah. It's just not working for me.
Yeah, I like the run game.
Dalvin.
Right, let's wind this down, shall we? Let's burn through a cut list. I got to do the cut list this week, so let's see if my players work out at all.
Yeah, I don't mind trading back and forth. It's kind of an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, so at quarterback, I think that you should cut Matthew Stafford, that you should cut Cam Newton. Not in a 2-quarterback league, obviously. This is only for 1-quarterback leagues, but when you carry 2 quarterbacks in a single quarterback league, they should both be bad. Because if you have a good quarterback, don't waste that bench spot on on a backup quarterback.
Yeah, in general, at that point, there should only be a guy you pick up and drop someone else, the lowest denominator on your bench, and then drop him again as soon as
drop the player who you're least likely to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like this week, one of my leagues, I got Kyler Murray, like I said, and he's on a bye, and
right.
like I saw that, and I hated the fact that I have to have another quarterback.
Yeah, because Kyler Murray's fantastic.
You only need it for 1 week.
Who'd you pick up?
I picked up Carson Wentz. Because,
okay, well that's great. But that's like right.
They're playing
the Cowboys.
This week, he's like a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Nice job.
I will pick him up for this week, and then I will look to see who I can drop him for next week.
That's right.
Yeah. I think I grabbed Teddy Bridgewater this week for my Kyler Murray replacement.
Against the Falcons. There you go.
Yeah, I like it. At running back, I like Devonta Freeman to cut. That is.
You don't like him.
James White, Justin Jackson, and Adrian Peterson.
Did you mention Cam Newton already?
I did.
Okay.
Cam Newton, let's cut him.
It was so quick that nobody heard it.
I don't think that there needs to be a lot of discussion
said his
about
name.
cutting.
That's
Not a
Cam
problem.
Newton's
Not
needed,
a problem.
Yeah. We're also cutting, like I said, Devonta Freeman. He did get hurt. He may not even be back right away. Then you got James White. You got Justin Jackson, Adrian Peterson. I think that we should cut them all loose.
So I like James White. I feel like New England's offense is not working right now, and it's broken, and it needs to be fixed. And James White will be good because James White is a great player, regardless of who they're starting, what they're doing. But right now, you're right. He's not working out. Now, whether or not I would drop him in a league, I'm questionable about because I don't know that you'd be able to pick him back up. But I cannot argue with your with your.
I'm not thrilled with what I've seen from James White this year.
I will say also, I'm kind of big on AP still, and reason being, like we talked about the history of the Lions running game.
Yeah.
If ever there was somebody that could break that cycle, like and be reliable for an 80 yards and a goal line punch in, it would be Adrian Peterson.
I could see him getting some goal line carries, maybe vulturing a bit, but I think that Swift is going to be the guy getting the majority of the carries going forward.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. I think Swift is going to be good, but to today's point, like the inevitability about the everybody on the line's just failing.
Yeah, there's never been a guy who just has been able to keep it up. So
yeah,
I mean, cold swimming pools over there in Detroit.
So over at wide receiver, I think we should be cutting Michael Gallup because there is barely room for 2 fantasy players on Dallas now. We were talking about 4 pass catchers.
Do you remember the name of the quarterback?
Oh, it's the Italian kid, Danucci.
Yeah.
Danucci.
And what's his first name?
Giuseppe.
I was seriously going to say Giuseppe.
So I was just talking to my fiance,
Is it like David
earlier,
or something?
who also plays fantasy football in a couple leagues, and I told her I was talking about the Cowboys. It's Ben. I was talking about the Cowboys, and I forgot the name of the quarterback that's now quarterback after Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott got injured.
Okay.
I forgot the name right after I talked about it with her for about 30 seconds, and then I forgot about it again, and I'm like, if I keep forgetting the name of this quarterback and I can't remember Ben DiNucci's name, then it means that everyone on that team is going to be horrible for the rest of the year.
I'm amazed that I remember DiNucci.
Yeah, you got it. Ben DiNucci. We will not remember that name after this season. It will be wiped from our memory, just like Men in Black. Will Smith is here. He's helping us out. Ben DiNucci. There, we're gone. It's gone.
We just watched that the other day, too. Well done.
We're going to get rid of Julian Edelman as well. I'm sorry, Dave, for not believing you a couple weeks earlier.
Ah, well.
But in addition to Cam Newton, we're cutting Julian Edelman. We basically...
It's mostly Cam Newton's fault.
I know. It is. Maybe he needs to up his scarf game?
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Is there some kind of fashion team that he could join?
I don't like how you're looking at me just because, the Raiders are in Vegas now, and I mean, it's...
This guy.
And Cam Newton looking like a showgirl. That's...
We're going to cut Deebo Samuel. He is banged up, may not even play the next couple of weeks. There isn't a lot of receiving action going on there. You've got Brandon Ayuk playing better, getting a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Dave's favorite farm boy, George Kittle.
Oh, George Kittle. Come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens in San Francisco.
Come on.
George Kittle's going to be the focal point of the offense for the rest of the 49ers' careers.
So, we're going to cut Keelan Cole.
Also, he probably plays a mean beer pong, I'm just saying.
Keelan Cole was up and down this year. He had one great up game where he had 143 yards, and he followed it up with a 12-yard performance. In a game where the team scored 29 points, which is the second most they've scored all year long.
Yeah.
He had 12 yards. He played 76% of the snaps, which is the second highest total he's had all year. So you can't even rely on him to get targets. So I do not want Keelan Cole on my bench. Traequan Smith is my last wide receiver to cut with nobody to throw the ball to in New Orleans. Drew Brees still chose not to throw it to Traequan Smith. So let's cut him. I don't hear much argument from the peanut gallery here. We'll move on to tight ends.
I'm still on the cheese conversation. Like it's.
I want to talk about Minnesota hard cheeses.
Oh, tight ends! Oh, hey, how about that?
We're gonna cut Dalton Schultz.
That's fine.
Because, as stated before, let's get rid of everyone who Ben DiNucci can throw the ball to.
Oh yeah,
or not quite throw the ball to.
I mean, honestly,
I didn't need that name in front of me. That's amazing.
See, you forgot about it already.
No, I said I didn't need it in front of me.
You will forget about it shortly.
About who?
Ben DiNucci.
Oh, okay.
Who's that?
Who's that?
Who is that?
The
You
mastermind.
mean Giuseppe?
Oh, yes, you're right.
And then the final one, which may be a little controversial, I suppose, Mike Gesicki.
He supposes.
I don't like what I've seen out of Mike Gesicki. I don't think that we're going to have a rookie quarterback jump in there and fix it. But, Dave, tell me why I'm wrong.
Hidden Falls is an American brie-style cheese hailing from Minnesota, where it's produced by Shepherd's Way Farms. The cheese is made from a combination of pasteurized cows and sheep's milk. Underneath its delicate, bloomy rind, the texture is creamy, springy, and buttery.
You better be reading that.
No, what I'm really interested in is I don't think Mike Gesicki is a dump right now. I actually think he's better than that because he's taken scout team reps all year. According to beat reporters, he's been doing like half the scout team reps with Tua every single week. And young quarterbacks, who do they throw the ball to? Tight ends. And I feel like it's going to be a Mike Gesicki and Tua show for the next couple of weeks as Tua figures out exactly how he's going to take the reins of this offense. So while this is completely hypothetical, I feel like my understanding of the fact that Gesicki has chosen or been told to, instructed to, however this has worked, to work with the scout team throughout the year with Tua, is instrumental in me thinking that he will have a good game next week. And you know what? We should probably place a bet on this.
I disagreed with your last tight end cut last week of Robert Tonyan. You disagree with mine this week. Perhaps offline we can work out a Gesicki versus Tonyan style bet.
Well, Tonyan sucks, so you don't expect anything from Tonyan.
I am perfectly fine with betting against a guy who had 2 targets and 0 catches last week.
Okay, fair enough.
And I'll say this much with as far as Tua goes, and I have absolutely nothing to base this on, but just seeing how he played in Alabama, it seems like he's going to be the type that's going to want to make a big splash in his debut, which means going for it, which means deep passage, which means trying to challenge Jalen Ramsey, which means going downfield and not worrying about that safety valve that the tight end is.
Are you sure you're not just saying that because he's a Dolphin?
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
A big splash.
That's because they're fish.
I thought this was going to be about cheese. So
I want it to be about
we
cheese.
We got one more question, and I'm afraid it's not about cheese. But if Antonio Brown plays well right away, could Mike Evans be cut in a couple weeks? I think no. I think that there's been too many injuries there, and it's going to be sort of a merry-go-round of injuries. And don't count on Antonio Brown's first week performance to indicate what he's going to do later on.
Oh my God! In Week 9, when Antonio Brown comes in, you and I and all of us, we know that Antonio Brown is going to have a good game with Tom Brady.
Yeah, he's going to have like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
no, I don't know about that, but at least 80 yards, 4 or 5 receptions.
I'll bet the 2 touchdown prop his first game.
Oh.
And then I'm betting under for the rest of the year on him.
Yeah. Well, because week 11, he's going to be kicked off the team for some dumb shit that he's done off the field.
That's right.
I mean,
that's right.
The point
he's
is
going to throw a TV out of his apartment window.
But the point is, those players, people that are betting on Scotty Miller and players like that, that's bogus. The only people that matter on that team are Godwin, Evans, and Brown. However, I don't believe, like these guys are saying, in Brown's longevity on the team. And I feel like giving up on an Evans or a Godwin and selling them short or cutting them or thinking that they'll get traded or cut is it's not going to happen. That team is Arians' team. He's allowed Brady to come in and invite people to the party that he didn't want to come, but he is never going to get rid of Evans and Godwin.
Where did we hear that? Who said that this week? Tom Brady is the guy who comes to the party and invites all of his friends.
I think it was from a Reddit subreddit.
That you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Tom Brady, the guy that comes to the party, invites his friends. You didn't want them to come, but you're like, all right, here
I guess
you
they're
are.
here. I guess this party's going a lot later than we thought.
Poor Edelman.
Okay, so thank you everybody for listening to us this week. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That's going to really help us out and growing the new YouTube stream. Go to drinkfive on Twitter, I guess. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. I think we're on Facebook still. If you're someone's parent or something like that, then you're still on Facebook, I imagine.
This guy is, he's not helping.
Sorry.
Yes. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram.
At TADIGITY24 on Twitter. Jeez.
Just call me Drink Five Claws.
All right, guys. Thanks, Tad, for being here tonight.
Good times.
Cheers, everybody.
Nice. I ain't drinking that.
It was a fun time answering everybody's questions, and we'll see you later.
Awesome. Thank you.